Hello. Let's talk about Anastasia. I don't think that there's any other movie that inspired me to become a writer uh, of dramatic storytelling more than Anastasia. It impacted me a lot. We'll open a window. It impacted me a lot when I was really young. All of Don Bluth's movies typically did. To some lesser and greater extents, I even like Pebble and the Penguin. I like Don Bluth movies. I know that that's not one of his more popular ones, but I liked it. I like the heart that Don Bluth puts into his movies. And Anastasia was supposed to be the launch pad, and then, Titan AE after it, and then, by the way, you don't get to work in the animation world anymore, Mr. Don Bluth. Even though Anastasia is basically the best Disney movie. It's not a Disney movie. It's not made by Disney. But Don Bluth used to work at Disney. He knows how Disney tells stories. Honestly, I think that Anastasia is just a way better Disney princess movie than any actual Disney princess movie. And, I'm a huge fan of The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Mulan. I love Mulan so much. I don't care if it sounds gay. I like Disney princess movies. But honestly, Anastasia is just better at being a Disney princess movie. It's about, like the fall of the royal family when Rasputin, that the wicked Rasputin of the motherland. They've made a song about him. You know the one. He's like an evil, sorcerer. And he curses the royal family, and rebellion hits, and all the people are, destroying the palace. And Anastasia is the only one who gets away on the refugee train when she's very, very little. She's like one of the last surviving members of the royal family, but she ends up growing up in an orphanage with no one knows who she is. She doesn't know who she is. And, we just see her leaving the orphanage with her little Disney pet dog, Puka. And, while she's wandering around these abandoned city streets, she wanders into a decrepit, dilapidated, burned down but ruined, still standing royal dance hall. And it plays that song, Once Upon a December. Oh, that song haunts me. I adore and love that song so much. Serious. Especially the timing of that moment when the choir kicks in and all the ghosts come out of the portraits and the paintings and start dancing as she starts to remember something from her youth. Oh man, so freaking good. So freaking good. And then you got, the con man Dimitri and his homeboy. They're looking for the next job, and they find out that, the former royal queen duchess is trying to find her daughter Anastasia, and she's holding interviews with a bunch of very specific questions. And it's like, if you actually find my daughter and reunite her with me, I will give you the royal treasures. I'll give you everything I have. Just find my daughter for me. And these two douchebags, basically, they see Anastasia and they're like, oh man, you're even named after Her Royal Highness. You look like she would look. You're about as tall as she would be. You're the right age. I wonder if I could train you to be a princess. Which, absolutely no woman on the face of the planet would ever love being told that. But, he says it with such gusto, and he's so confident, like, hey, street trash, I can make you a princess. Like, this dude has no class at all. All he cares about is money and conning people. And that's kind of most what the movie's about. And then, Rasputin and his little bat dude, Bartok. His name's Bartok. They're scheming their revenge on the royal family to finally get back at them for reverse cursing him. This movie's kind of dark, actually. I mean, Rasputin just wanders around hell with throws his head down the stairs and decapitulates his body into random bones and then pieces himself back together again, rips his own black heart out of his skeletal chest and is like, like, holy crap, this is dark. This is creepy and nasty looking sometimes. But it's dope. It's got that dark fantasy element to it, on top of everything else. And the total flavor is just... there's just everything, man. Hits you with the umami at first, and then you get a little bit of the tart, the tang, and the saltiness, and then it finishes off on those sweet, delicious notes from the beautiful animation. And honestly, one of my favorite things about Mulan's animation is that they basically don't use the color black in most of the movie. In particular, the outlines of characters in the animation cells, they don't put black outlines on top of flesh tones. They put a darker flesh tone for the outline. If it's like a blue jacket, it's a darker blue line for the outline instead of using raw black. And the whole movie just glows because of that. And then, it's a whole story about, like, they don't realize they found the actual princess and they're trying to pass her off as the real princess. And then, the grandma or, whatever, it's like, oh, well, you passed the test and you've passed every single question. But, the thing is, I've had people training fake daughters for me for years, and at this point, I just can't believe my daughter even exists anymore. It's American Tail all over again. When Fievel and his family are just like walking on the different bridges. It's like, here's the princess and the super crazy royal queen, and they're in the same room with each other, and they're talking, and they want to recognize each other, but they've both been hurt so much by life that they can't bring themselves to believe it could be true. And that's kind of heartbreaking in a way, Honestly, everything about that movie is fantastic. I think it's one of the best movies ever made, not just because I love animation, but because I think the story and the presentation is absolutely phenomenal. And I still hear that song Rasputin sings. It's kind of like it's kind of like in The Lion King when Scar is singing "Be Prepared." It's like that kind of scene when the bad guy is rallying his forces and singing a crazy Nazi rally song, basically. I still hear that song in the dark of the night. I still hear it in my head. It's catchy. It's a good song. Most of the music in that movie is good, but seriously, just the drama, the honestness, the earnestness of the constant despair with few scraps of hope that is human life, and holding fast onto those scraps of hope until you have amassed a hope loaf, a full loaf of hope bread. I feel like that's kind of the message that movie teaches. And I don't know, I guess that I've always felt that that's important. It's mattered a lot in my life. Yeah. Thanks for listening to me talk about an animated cartoon movie for kids from the 90s that I actually, at 40 years old, still think is awesome. And I think you should watch it because it's good. Anyway, yeah, that's what I got. Thanks for listening. God bless. Later.